I hope we're doing well today. I'm going to ask you how you're doing. Thank you for joining me for this hour and a half. Now, from what I was told, we'll have this recorded time for an hour, and then we'll stop recording after that to get even more real. I'm excited about that for 30 minutes or so, and really start, to ask some hard questions. I had before we had pressed record, I had throwing out, my dream of this discipline in terms of it being both, oh my God, I can't get overwhelmed 3 seconds into this talk. But, and the reason is because I have a vision of a place where we know how great mathematics is, and we know how great it feels to be yourself, right? To be in a place where you can just say what you want to say, be who you want to be, not have to hide something. What does it look like for mathematics to be a place where we can be both of those things, right? Now that is the dream. It's a dream for a reason, because it's not what we have now. It's going to be hard to get. And so in a lot of ways, how do we now, in some ways, navigate, being in a subject that we love while also having to not be who we are at all times, right? When that's who we want to be. We're going to talk a little bit about that. I'm going to be reaching out to you and asking you for your feedback and asking questions in the form of Padlets. I'm excited to do that. But first, I just want to ask how you are doing. So I'm going to share my screen. Yes?
Yes.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you. So yeah, we'll do the introduction and ask how people are doing, talk about authenticity in mathematics, some challenges navigating this world. We'll conclude and we'll talk it up. I always want to take the time to know how people are doing. If you haven't used a Padlet before, you should be able to double click in one of the columns if this loads. Let me know how things are going. What a time we're living in. This is also a place where you can tell me if you like who you are. These are anonymous, so you can say who you are and what in the world are you doing here, right? In addition to how you're doing. What are you looking to gain from this space? That a guide? Oh yes, nervous. And look, that nervous could be about so many things. So yeah, there's lots of things to be nervous. A little tired, but excited for the future. Vince, welcome. Hungry, eat. Yes, no, look, I am not offended. Eat up. Already tired. First year undergrad in NYC, welcome. Ooh, my goodness. Love, I'm sending love your way. We got some hearts for that person. Let's heart that person up. And by the way, that's a whole other talk we got to give about qualifying exams and what they do to us. Oh my goodness. Thank you for saying that. You are on my mind. Things are busy. I'm trying to make my Thursdays into a weekend and taking it a bit easy today. Appreciate that. Welcome. Loving being around everyone here. Absolutely right. We're going to talk a little bit about that, about community. Nervous because of grad school decision letters. Just curious about other people focusing in math. Excellent. Welcome to the Canadians in the room. Well caffeinated and rested. All right, sounds like we're ready to go. All right. So I got some people on my mind already. Had a bad night, so camera will be off. Trying to get work done. I hear you. Here to get inspired on how I can help in boosting representation in math. I might mention that a little bit. Right? Excellent. Thank you all for that. You can continue to post here. I got a few more of these. This is going to be the space, you know, every time I get on one of these things, I set a high bar. I set a bar to try and change the whole discipline, you know, 25 people at a time, right? Until for the next 35 years. Don't hold me to that. Oh my God, I'll be recorded. I guess I got to stick to that. But yeah, I mean, because I believe that a lot of the answers that we're looking for, searching for, are through this type of dialogue, right? Where we can just talk back and forth about how we can make mathematics a more welcoming space, how we can navigate mathematics while it is also currently not a welcoming space that allows for us to be who we are authentically. Currently in trouble for addressing professor. We got so much to talk about in the other 30 minutes after this. So this is great. This is great. We'll put that in blue. I guess I will be coming back to this palette to start after the first hour. Great. How are you doing? Appreciate it. I'm Aris Winger, originally from Washington, D.C., born and raised there. The greatest honor I have in the world is to be the father of Abingdon Winger, my 10-and-a-half-year-old who is running around here somewhere, who will undoubtedly try and interrupt and say hello to everybody. I'm the husband of Blythe Winger. It is also an honor to have allow for her to have me as her sidekick. I'm a Black person in the United States of America. That means something. I'm a teacher at heart, a mathematician. I'm deeply concerned and have at the center of my work equity and belonging in mathematical spaces. I could say so much more about the work that I do. I'm also the sidekick of Pamela Harris, as we both host Mathematically Uncensored, a podcast that you can find at your whatever podcast platform you use, also at minoritymath.org. You can find that podcast there as well. She and I have also written some books about advocating for students of color in mathematics. I'm doing some social justice work. I'm working on grants like the CORE project, which I'm going to mention later. So doing lots and lots of stuff, all centered around, again, equity and belonging in mathematical spaces. And again, with this grand vision of taking the greatest discipline in the history of people, mathematics, and in this country at least, disrupting narratives that it cannot be a place where everybody belongs. That's a current narrative that we're trying to disrupt. Vince, appreciate the love. Authenticity, being who you are. Let me start off by saying that you all are awesome, each and every single one of you. And I'm thinking of your awesomeness being exactly who you are and nothing less than that. Right. And so I don't need to tell you this, but I may be reminding you that in the history of the world and the billions of people who have ever lived, there has never been another you. Right. And that in itself, when we, in this world, we tend to make things so complicated. But when you look at another individual and just think that there's never been another person exactly like that person ever to live, or to ever live in the future, it can be an overwhelming thought. And so the question becomes that if I'm trying to somehow get to know you at your best, then it is you without any filters. It is you being who you are. And so the reality is that just like any professional environment, current math context may not be set up for some of us to succeed, and certainly not for all of us to succeed. And you might imagine that there are some identities and positionalities that we each have that don't allow for math spaces to support us in the way, ideally, that we need to be supported. I've come here today to ask you some questions about some spaces in which you may not have felt supported, or where you may not have felt that you have been able to give your full self, to say what you have needed to say, to be who you want to be. This idea is not new. I'm born and raised in Washington, D.C. I went to Paul Laurence Dunbar Senior High School, right? The first all-Black high school in the entire country. And so Polo Reservoir means something to me, along with a lot of the other Black poets of the day. One of my favorite poems, We Wear the Mask. We wear the mask that grins and lies. It hides our cheeks and shades our eyes. This debt we pay to human guile, with torn and bleeding hearts we smile, and mouth with myriad subtleties. Why should the world be overwise in counting our tears and sighs? Nay, let them only see us while we wear the mask. We smile, but, O great Christ, our cries to thee from tortured souls arise. We sing, but oh, the clay is vile beneath our feet and long the mile. But let the world dream otherwise. We wear the mask. As you may know, obviously, this, when he wrote this, this was in the context of how is it that, Black people in particular can navigate a white world, right? Timeless works of art are timeless for a reason. That there's some people on this call who wear masks all the time in mathematical spaces, right? And so finding this balance between, yes, we can't roll through to work in any way that we want to be. However, can we imagine a mathematical space in which we can operate, in which we can, be our best selves and be the people who we want to be? Or do we have to continue to play games and not say, or not reveal who we are? And what is it that we would have to do in the discipline to change that? I spent most of my time in graduate school wearing a mask, right? I mean, leaving Washington, D.C., and also being influenced by this poem and other writers and my grandmother and aunt and uncle who said, you better behave right, you better act right, you better do this, you better do that, right? And when you get into these other spaces, then that meant that, if you had met me in graduate school, I would be very different from what I am today, because I had to do certain things in certain ways and wear the mask in lots and lots and lots of situations. Maybe I'm the only one in which that's the case. Let me see here whether, yes. So then we're really thinking about what the intersection of these two things are: your authentic self, your professional math self. Is there anything in the intersection? Are there some people out there where those two are completely separate, where the intersection is empty? And we got some young people here. We got some first year undergrads in math who are coming along. And what you will see is how we behave in the mathematics culture. You will see, and you will be influenced by all your teachers, and then you'll go to conferences, and then you'll interact with other people, and you'll get an idea. No one's going to show you the list, right? And this is how culture works, that you'll just look around and say, oh, I'm supposed to do that. Oh, I'm not supposed to say that because that person looks like they're in trouble. Oh, okay, if I do that, then people will like me, right? And so we'll be indoctrinated into the culture as you move through. The question becomes, and you'll learn, on the fly what it means, right? What people want it to mean to be a professional, math person. How will that interact with who you're trying to be in this world, right? And how do they intersect? So when thinking about authenticity in math spaces, I want to hear from you all, past, present, and future, about how is it that you have navigated math spaces when those, sometimes where who you want to be and who you need to be in the math space are in conflict. We'll spend some time here. This will also be a place where we'll go ahead and unmute. If you want to say it out loud again, you can click on the Padlet and contribute, raise your hand, write it in the chat. I believe we got a chat. Let's get all voices going, vocally, written in the chat, written on the Padlet. How well can you be yourself in math spaces? What would you like to do or acknowledge about yourself that you can't in math spaces? completely anonymous. And oh my goodness, as I said before, I want to change the discipline. I want to take this Padlet and put it out in the world for the world to see. So this is the time that if someone, that in some ways, we want someone to be able to look at this and say, oh my God, there's a problem, right? So if you want to say something, say it here, because what I want to be able to do, and what Dwight's going to do, and the rest of the organizers, is say, here is what happened at Hidden Norms, and scream out to the discipline, we have a problem with authenticity in math spaces. If you can put a percentage on it, how much of yourself do you hide while in math spaces? And I appreciate this more than I care to admit. Family of mine right here, the damn thing's anonymous. I love you. Put it down. Put it. If it's 100%, put it down. This is the time to admit it. Say it. Around 50%, half. Yes, 100%. Excuse me for my rounding error. So we got some people, right? Already, we got some people who are rolling in here, putting on the mask, saying, well, look, I just got to be somebody completely different in order to make this work. Oh, no, I like this question. Which math spaces? And it's any. Yeah, and because I think this is a good question, only because I think that we should find the ones where, and you can respond to my comment right where you've written it, this person right here. Let me make it a different color. Because I think, and when we think about the multitude of math spaces, which ones work and which ones don't, and what's the difference? Come to spaces like this. So this is a good one. We'll see, right? That's good. Around 50%, hiding half of ourselves, crisis, right? And why? What is it, right? So again, we can unmute, we can write it in here as well. What are the types of things that we feel like we might need to hide? What would you like to do or acknowledge about yourself that you can't in most math spaces? I would like to be more excited about my work and more uncertain where I raise ideas. And family of mine and all the people who are going to listen to this here, and the one-dimensional people who only care about the math, who say, why do you keep talking about math authenticity in math spaces, and why this is relevant? This person can't even be their best mathematician, because being excited and being uncertain in the discipline is tied to being the greatest mathematician you can be, right? And this person feels like they can't even do that, right? Well, we know why. Oh, let's heart that one up. Yeah, we know why, right? It's because of ego. It's because of, whoever gets it fastest is better. It's because, we have to put on the mask of always knowing, or if I don't know, I'll know faster than you, all the nonsense, right? That doesn't allow us to say, well, wait, I don't know how to do this, right? I'm a woman and I want to have a family soon. Why would there be a space where we wouldn't feel comfortable saying that? I never cared about math. It was just a means to an end. I did not know how to enjoy learning until recently. I'm sorry, I'm loving that column. Let me look at some of these other ones. And again, no, and other people can unmute and say, I'm interested in this particular one. So, because I'm going to miss some, because people are really chiming in here. This is fantastic. Let me look at the chat. Anyone? Oh, no one's saying anything in the chat. Okay. What's an example of you not being your authentic self in math? I don't know if I'm ready. I didn't bring any tissues. Okay, I'm gonna fight through it. I tell my students that I use they, them pronouns on my syllabus, but I don't put it in my email signature. I'm afraid of what my colleagues would say. Thank you. Yes. I'm a tired individual, very exhausted by the world and how the system works. But in math spaces, I find myself acting like I'm not exhausted. A part of it is for my students. I don't want them to see me exhausted and think it's because of them. I wish I could just admit to the sphere audience that I'm tired. And fam, I would just offer to you that I believe, particularly in the classroom, that authenticity and truth is the primary vehicle for expressing love in the classroom. That if you can imagine going into a classroom in front of your students and saying, y'all, I'm tired. First of all, you know, the way this world is working today, many of your students will resonate with you, right? And there is this sense of infallibility that we're always, as math professors, that we're always trying to disrupt, right? And so to create that level of vulnerability, at least with your students, there might be an opportunity there. But I feel that. What's an example of you not being your authentic self in math spaces? Feeling like I need to speak in a lower, more confident voice. Maybe you can say more about that. I don't know what that means exactly. Feeling like I need to speak in a lower, more confident voice. Is the authentic part you being more confident or not being more confident? That you have to pretend like you're more confident? A deep voice rather than, thank you. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. So we're already seeing some of the things I'm going to talk about later. We might as well talk about them now. That they're, again, and this is what we mean by not set up for us to succeed. We got people who are saying they have to change the tone of their voice in order to get respect in this space, a gendered issue at least. I wanted to get up from a few talks, not because of disinterest, but because I thought the audience was rude to the speaker, or the speaker was rude to the audience. But math says it was just a dialogue. Yes, 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 yes. Lots of space there to talk about how we talk about mathematics. So I think some of us have actually forgotten that our math conversations, when put in other contexts, sound rude as hell. Or maybe I'm the only one who thinks that, like, yeah, no, I mean, I had to actually, if you put some of this stuff on paper, right, then you would just be like, wait, is that okay to say? At my undergrad institution, there was this whole, there was an incident in which a professor was talking, I was in this class, and this professor was talking like a mathematician to the class, and the class, there were only 6 of us, but the class was just like, whoa, this is not appropriate. And he's like, I'm just talking like a mathematician. I'm just talking like a mathematician. And so here we are having some norms about the culture of mathematics that's allowed. But again, who gets to pick them? Who gets to question them? How do we get to change them, right? And again, that's tied to who we want to be, because maybe we talk in a way that's not like that. And how is it that that can be okay? Several times in class, I knew the right answer, but was hesitant to answer in fear of having to uphold the high standard as the valedictorian of my class. Yes, yes. And your authentic self could not show because of that. What does the discipline ask of you that often, I meant goes against, let's see if I can change that, goes against who you want to be as a person? It asks me to be serious and take math seriously. I like to have fun when I do it. Yes, 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 yes. It can be hard to speak up, put yourself out there when you are struggling with material, but your peers seem to be light years ahead of you on the problem. This often happens in discussion sections or math help centers where students collaborate on homework. Usually I err on staying quiet because I don't want to be a burden or seem like a moocher off of other people's work. Too long to read. It can be hard to ask for help and bridge knowledge gaps when sometimes you're afraid of being perceived as too lazy to figure it out, when in reality, you've been stuck for ages. Let's help that person out. So this person saying that the discipline is asking something of them that's not in tune with who they are. There's quite a bit of gatekeeping in terms of using the right language and doing math in the right way, right? And some ways are privileged more than others, right? And so again, if somehow you have another way you want to show something, if it's not the right way, then there we are. I'm asked to put aside issues like when a colleague is acting racist and just think about the math, or acting sexist. That often happens to me. So again, these barriers to authenticity, right? Because after all, if your colleague is acting racist in front of you, or acting sexist in front of you, or acting ableist in front of you, how could you be yourself? Right? How could you be authentically who you are? And how is it that you're supposed to act if that's your boss, the department head, right? Someone of esteem in your department. Sometimes I feel like I have to be an example as a young queer brown woman, and sometimes I just want to be myself instead. How is it that this person, can we imagine a world where this person isn't thrown into a box? What would we have to do on the front end to tell departments to not put that person in the box? Oh, excellent. You all have crushed it. How well can you be yourself in math spaces? I find hiding myself or trying to fit in did not make me more respected or prevent me from harassment. So now I try to find myself in how I am a mathematician. Social justice has become one aspect. Appreciate that. It trips me up trying to present myself in the right way. For example, in the job market, kind of sabotaging. Makes me wish the things I love about myself were more marketable or something. Oh, yeah, no, I'm here, right? I'm here about, I love, but I wish the things that I love about myself were more marketable. And, you know, the things that you love about yourself are what they are. And yeah, they don't need to be marketable at all, right? And yeah, yeah, let's help that person out as well. I'm afraid to say something wrong and offer my ideas. I think this has to do with previous experiences of being gatekept by my professors and others who have more opportunities and more classes. If you don't know something, that you're going to get punished for it. If you don't know something, you're going to get punished for it. And while I'm here, let me just be clear about gatekeeping in general. That I know that we like to put names on stuff so that it's easy to say, but I think, again, for narrative change, we need to talk about that gatekeeping is a way of punishing people for not knowing, right? And that, yeah, and that's not acceptable. We got to find some other ways to think about that. Choosing to get normal haircut. A colleague recently inspired me to be bolder. Okay, okay. This is an example of you not being your authentic self in math, trying to get interested in who gets the field prizes while I don't care for a competition. Okay, so there's a lot. There's a lot here. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So and people are still writing, keep writing. And we're gonna post this, you know, and take out, you know, some people, I think one or two people's names showed up because some people apparently use Padlets, which is great. And so, but yes, this is something that we can hope will change the discipline, particularly this column about how much people have to hide in this space, what people have to do, what people have to, you know, withhold and not say. Oh, let's look at the anything else column. Anything else is, I feel almost the opposite. I grew up in a formal patriarchal family and would feel very comfortable in the system, but am not allowed to belong. Yes, yes, yes. And that is great. And that is just as important. What is it that you need, right, from this space in order to feel this sense of belonging and feel like you can just be yourself? A lack of BIPOC. Mathematicians, professors, lack of acknowledgement of the knowledge of BIPOC mathematicians. Absolutely, absolutely. This is a math space. Classes, conferences, workspace with collaborators, all of these are math spaces. So I find I am myself in various proportion in all of these spaces. Absolutely, right? That's fantastic. That's fantastic. It hurts me to know that if my name was not put in the English version on my birth certificate, my opportunities would be different. Yes, 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 yes. We have to do something about that. Fantastic, people. Fantastic. All right, so where should we go? Where are some math spaces where we can be ourselves? Do we know some? I want to create a system of places where we can go. I'll put this in the chat in just a second. Some people were just mentioning this here in the anything else column about some websites we can go to, conferences, groups, organizations. Because one of the things that we're going to say is, we're going to say that the world has gotten smaller. Oh, you're talking to the wrong person. National Association of Mathematicians is a fact, right? Can we put a link there? The Math Alliance, subgroups, absolutely. Now, so good. We're putting up some absolutely good, 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 good. The world has gotten smaller. The narrative of the lone mathematician or the lone graduate student or the lone student with a particular identity who cannot find their community, right, is that narrative is hopefully coming to a close, right? Whether it is in this space, let's be clear, somebody earlier here said that they like spaces like this. A space like this did not exist 25 years ago. The one that we just created for Hidden Norms, right? And so right now is a moment in time where, you know, we can find community and have conversations and, you know, find places where we can be ourselves and do mathematics. Good, yeah, it's good. People are putting links too. Let's get the links in there. Absolutely right. While I'm here, let me just ask. It just dawned on me. So is it just sending an email to these places? What are we supposed to say? We're gonna write an email, like, how is it that, so somebody's on this call now, and now they just found out about subgroups, or it's one of the other ones. What is it that we're supposed to do, right? So you write an email, and what is it that you say? You're supposed to say, I made a new column for this. You're supposed to say what? Like, oh, I've been looking for this group. How do I join? Who do I meet? What are you supposed to say, right? I'm super action oriented, right? So last column, what does this first reach out look like, right? We name some places. Let's get this first action item going. What are you supposed to say when you reach out? Do you all see this last column? I just refreshed it. Let me refresh. Lunch in the time of COVID, fantastic. Our online undergraduate resource fair for the advancement and alliance of marginalized mathematicians. That crew is amazing. Great, great, great. Hit norms, absolutely, absolutely. Hearts to that, hearts to that. And hit norms and our fam, you know, this is an unprecedented time in mathematics where we have these groups and subgroups as well, where we have these groups and you have a small group of people who don't have, quote, don't have a lot of power, say, you know what, we are going to do something about this. We're going to start this ourselves and uplift and create spaces where we can be authentic. This also is a testament, you know, to the discipline and how we can change it. And the National Society of Black Engineers has student chapters, absolutely. I'm a new math student and I'm looking for support. Can you help me find resources and a mentor? That's how you can reach out. Student chapters there, absolutely, absolutely right. Great, thank you for this. Thank you for this. Reaching out to graduate students after I graduated was vital for me to connect and to build with others. Imagine 4 to 6 Black math grad students and postdocs across the country, vibing via Zoom and sharing experiences, scheduling breaks, writing our own goals, laughing, right? Powerful, just powerful. The Canadian Mathematics Education Study Group, also a conference. Beautiful, beautiful. Math Twitter, absolutely. I've seen that recently in the last year with Twitter about just being able to, you know, say something out in the world and just get support for it. Sometimes you just need that, right? NAM Undergraduate Math Fest changed my life. Changed my life. I talked about that on the podcast that just came out yesterday. To go there and find people who are loving mathematics, who look like me, who are going to go to graduate school like me, they're more to me than I can express. The American Indian Science and Engineering Society, though I wish there was more representation. Beautiful, 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 beautiful. We'll keep this too. And Dwight will make sure that I'll give you the link to this so that, you know, as a resource.
Excellent, thank you.
Of course, of course. LGBTQ plus Math Day. Wow, I did not know about that. Amazing, amazing. And so I had the Venn diagram earlier here. Really in practice it is as what we said, who is it that I want to be as a person? And what are the needs? What needs to be done to achieve my professional goals? I want a PhD in mathematics from this department. I get in that department, but wait, they want me to do this. And I don't really want to do that. Or they have this as a social norm, and I'm really not about that, right? What am I going to miss out on? And what is this balance? I kept going back and forth about having a picture of a balance and having these on opposite sides, but I preferred to go with the Venn diagram in this case because, you know, in an ideal, right, these things will overlap a lot more than at least some people are experiencing on this call. So we know some barriers to authenticity, right? And there's structural systemic barriers, right? That deep problems in mathematics tied to class, ableism, race, patriarchy, othering in general, and cultural differences, that if it is the case that the one who's in power somehow is operating in a world that goes unchecked, then when they have advisees, when they have students, that those differences aren't brought up as a potential issue, and allowing ourselves to be the best we can be and be who we are. And so it is our job to keep these in mind, along with a host of other barriers, that when you look at somebody else, particularly when you're in power, right? When you look at somebody else and you say, oh, might they be living in a different world than me, right? I mean, the great challenge in a lot of ways for us as a discipline, and I think as a society, is that we have to be able, you know, people say step in other people's shoes. I don't even think you need to do that, because you're never going to be able to step in my shoes if you're a white person. You're just not going to be able to do it. That's the nature of, you know, having white privilege, race, and the impact of racism. The question becomes, I don't want you to step into my shoes. I just want you to acknowledge that my shoes are different, that I'm living in a different world than you, right? Right, and that's true, and that's certainly true for women, that I could never understand what it means to be a woman or a non-man in this world, right? And so I'm not going to, and I'm going to read and understand and educate myself and call myself into question every day about patriarchy, about class, about ableism, about racism, not in hopes of fully understanding, but in hopes of continuing to acknowledge that there are some people who are going through things that I will never understand. And so that means that now, with the power that I have, that I am going to now, when I look at my students, hopefully I'll be less dominating, right? I can look at that person and say, oh, that person, instead of saying, oh, that person's supposed to do this, I can say, well, wait, that person didn't do this, but I also know that person is a Black woman in this city, and that means something, right? And then I know that they're going through a different walk than I could ever understand. All right, let's do some scenarios. In the core project, which Dwight and I have been working on, we interviewed over 75 graduate students of color over a diverse group of other intersectionalities. And one of the big things that kept coming up was this notion of social capital, of how you find out information through social networks in departments. And for my super young people, you'll see this happening, right? As you go through about the cultural and the social contexts that math spaces give us. Your first year graduate student, you hear that a large group of students are having a party gathering. Your initial interactions with other graduate students haven't been great, and you really aren't the party type, but you do know that that crew knows a bunch of stuff. That we got some fourth year graduate students, some people who are about to get their PhD. They're going to be talking, having fun, saying how things get done, who knows who knows what. We go into this thing. We like staying home and reading a book. Writing any column that you like. What are the challenges that might happen there? Would you go for 5 minutes? Would you say, never mind, because I'm just not that person? What we found in the core project in these interviews has been that there've been a lot of students who were lost and found out stuff that departments should really be telling them. But departments just tell some people and not others. So someone's talking about their life. This was hypothetical. And so it was like, I lived this and I never went. Yes, because I was uncomfortable being the only woman and had bad experiences. Absolutely. 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 And so again, I didn't want to give the balance picture, right? Because what is it that we're talking about, right? And I've come, oh my God, I've come to call into question the fact that we have to decide, right? That for too long we believe that this person simply has to miss out on all the information at this party in the old boys network, the young old boys network, where they're talking about, oh, you know about this conference, or I heard about this, we're going to that. And, you know, I've been talking to such and such advisor. He says that if you want to be in his group, then you got to do this and do that. She never heard any of that. She never heard any of that because she's a woman. That's called sexism, patriarchy, pick whatever you want to call it. Not okay. The question becomes, are we okay with that? Or are we going to reimagine a new discipline in which we have to do something about that, right? We have the answer to that, actually, right? That, oh, and in some ways, a big answer to that, again, is that departments need to be held accountable for the information that goes out to their students, right? And so that there won't be groups who hold some information that other groups don't get simply because they're more well-connected to other groups, because we know that's where racism and patriarchy live. That's where ableism lives. That's where anti-LGBTQ stances live, right? And so we have to continuously disrupt them. Thank you for that. I would still go. If anything, you would learn how people behave outside the math building. It can be very intimidating. You may face transgressions, but at least once just to experience it. And I'm struggling with that one. I think I understand it, right? But look at the accepted, by the way, love you fam here, okay? But look at what has to happen. Look at the accepted narrative. Yeah, it can be very intimidating, and you may face transgressions. You might face some transgressions, right? And so there's a narrative of accepting some transgressions in order for this to work. And I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but we have to, I just want to put a spotlight on that. That's our discipline, right? To be successful, you may have to accept some transgressions. Discipline, I imagine, doesn't exist anymore, right? Because I see both sides. I'm sorry, I hear both sides. Where it's just like, oh yeah, you may have to deal with a little patriarchy, but you won't believe the stuff that you hear that you can use to further your career. I hear the other side. I've been hearing the other side a lot the past year. Fuck any transgression. I won't accept any transgression. I don't deserve to be transgressed against. Like, I'm just not going to accept that, right? Right? This is the balance I'm talking about. What is the line? And I'm looking forward to, in a few minutes, opening up to everybody in the last 30 minutes to just say, how do we deal with that? How do we behave there, right? And ultimately, you know, to cut to the chase and to give away the ending, of course, this is a personal decision, right? I mean, and then just these first two that I put in colors give away a lot of it, right? That I'm not going because I know what I'm going to face. Oh, I need to go, even though they're going to be bad, then it's still worth going and connecting, right? You should go, not a smiley face. It might be something hard like eating your own vegetables, maybe something that you can reward yourself for afterwards. Gotta go, gotta go. By myself, I did not go. Then I found someone I trusted to go with. Might be a decent middle ground, right? Might be a decent middle ground. Do I have mentors, a real advisor, any good experiences with this group, a family that can uplift me? Yes, 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 yes. Powerful, powerful, powerful. Depends on what type of pottery gathering it is. Something relaxed, I would go and try to socialize and get to know people. If it's something I'm not comfortable with, I might not go just to avoid being put in a bad situation. Depends on the group. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I'm gonna do one more. Advisor. Now we're dealing with someone who has power over you. You're having a conversation with your academic advisor. They ask you about how you're doing. You respond honestly that it's a struggle finding balance. They respond that the expectations are that you work on the weekends or expected to be in your office from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. on the weekdays. On the weekdays, I meant there. What do you do? How do you respond to that person? Pamela and I talked about this a little bit on the podcast 2 episodes ago.
I have a question about this scenario.
Please.
When you say an academic advisor, do you mean like graduate student, like the person supervising the graduate student who has, okay, so like career kind of is in their hands?
No, I didn't say that.
Okay, potentially.
I didn't say that. You
potentially.
Said, I know how you're going to be answering, but maybe. Yeah, but no, this is your, yeah, in grad school.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you for clarification. Oh my goodness, nah. So this is good. So this person put nah after I described who this person was. Now remember, the person that just unmuted said that this person potentially has your academic future in your hands. You're going to tell them nah, you can respond right in your own comment. I don't believe you. I don't believe you. Not, I do not believe you. I don't believe you. In the hood way. I'm responding in the hood way. And so now we're going to face contexts in which we may have to, do stuff that we're just, like vehemently agree against. And so power comes into this too, right? And so it seems like here we're getting this response of it depends, right? And that's ultimately where we've got to go, right? That we've got to have this internal battle about who is it, what is it what are my boundaries to what I'm willing to do, right? I never talked to my advisor about anything like that. I'm pretty sure I ran an entire equity program without their knowledge. Yes. Appease them and get out. Appease them and get out. And in a lot of ways, I'm glad we're having this conversation now so that we can just get this, get square about what is it that we're willing to do and what is it that we're not willing to do. And then when our boundaries are touched, what are the ways in which we can say, okay, I'm not willing to do this, right? And what's the best way to say that? And not to risk to jeopardize our careers. I actually enjoyed it. Excellent, 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 excellent. Been there, was stuck. Pushed myself, burnout was real, was glad when I was out. Thank you for sharing that. Let me ask this person who wrote this one. Been there, was stuck, pushed myself, burnout was real, was glad when I was out. Is there anything you could have done differently? You can unmute, type it there. Is there anything looking back, would you have done something differently? I'm really bad at confrontation, so something I would do too. Agree to their face, then seek mentorship elsewhere. Really bad at confrontation. Yes, no, I get the really bad at confrontation piece. Yeah. But there's some element of not being run over either, right? To just not accepting anything that we're being told. As an expansion of my contribution, I think expecting myself to work 10 hours on weekends, my weekend, I don't think that that's healthy. A well-rested student is a good student. I can't be running on fumes or burnout before I even reach my peak. Hearts, hearts, hearts to that. Oh, can I put hearts on that one? Love it. Absolutely love it. So we know their boundaries, right? So that person has their boundaries. The question then becomes, How is it that the words that you just said can be articulated to someone who holds power over you, right? And one of the ways is to say that, you know, advisor, you certainly want me at my best. I have to offer to you that in my life, that if what you're suggesting is what you want me to go through, then you're not going to get my best, right? And I think we both want me to give you or to perform as best as I can. And so that's going to be difficult. I'm willing to do other things, but this crosses my boundaries, right? Theoretically, you could say that. I'm trying to let myself be okay with dropping out of my mastering out from a PhD program. It is not worth it to be unhappy for so many years. Somebody is here saying that. Great. We got 2 minutes. We got 1 minute. And yeah, I want to talk about all of that. Let's help that person out. Let's just do it right now. Let's just be clear that we have an obsession with PhDs and associating it with success. That if you don't get one, then you're not successful, right? And that we have to disrupt that, right? The success, and so the hope is that you redefine success, and leaving because you're unhappy might be the greatest success of them all, right? And part of the reason is because I want us to think about the long game, right? I want us to think about 25 years from now, when you say, you know what, I got myself out of that bad situation, regardless, right? And I know that it's hard because everyone around you is, you know, either graduating or moving along and all this other stuff, and you look at them and we compare, and comparison is the thief of joy. And, you know, it just feels like, you know, you didn't succeed. And there's nothing I'm going to say right now that is going to, you know, fix it for you. But the process, I hope the process begins that your self-worth is not tied to whether you finish a PhD program. You are amazing as you are. And again, the real success is that you're making the decision to be like, you know what, I'm not happy here. I'm going to leave. If that's what you know is best for you. Let's help that person out.